Okay, good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. This is our very first Senior Center Tax Preparedness Workshop that you're all attending. Great to see such a good turnout. No, it's really neat to have so many of our community here to talk about a topic that this council in particular is very, it's one of our number one priorities is to connect with our community and make sure that if this project goes through, it looks like what we want it to look like. So we're happy for all of you to be here. We want to hear your thoughts. We're going to, we're videotaping this. We also will be writing down every question that is asked, and we will be providing as many answers as we can tonight. Answers we can't provide tonight, we will find the answer to, and all your questions and all the answers will be posted on our website. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this evening going. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce to all of you who've not had a chance to meet him yet, our new city manager, Frank Rush.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. It's really great to see such a great turnout for this project. We're excited to hear your ideas, your concerns, your opinions tonight. Can you hear me now? So again, thank you for coming out tonight. Really glad to see so many folks come out for the meeting tonight. This is the first of many other opportunities coming forward for people to share their ideas and concerns about this project. We're here tonight because we want to hear what you think about this project. So hopefully we'll have a great meeting tonight, and look forward to hearing from everybody's comments. I do want to introduce Greg Bourne. He's our facilitator for tonight's meeting. Greg has helped us out in the past. He is a skilled facilitator affiliated with UC Davis and a group called Lead for Tomorrow. So we're very blessed to have Greg with us tonight.
Thank you, Frank. And I'm going to turn this back over to Brooke just for one announcement.
Sorry, I should have mentioned, you'll notice that Councilmember Jason Collin is not here with us tonight. He does own property in the project area, and that is a conflict of interest for him, so he has to recuse himself from this topic. But I just wanted to explain why he was not with us tonight.
I've got a mic. Okay, it's good to be with you all tonight. I've been involved with many communities around the country over the years, working on challenging issues, and I think it's great when the community shows up. And we know we've got a wide divergent set of points of views on this particular project, as well as other things going on in the community. So we want to give voice to all of that. And I've just got a few thoughts that I hope can guide our meeting tonight and make it as effective and as productive as possible. Just one more time, I'm going to announce, if you'd like to speak, I need a yellow card from you. And if you want to make comments and not speak, there are larger white cards for that. I urge you to keep those throughout the meeting because you may have comments that arise during the meeting. Excuse me, and then give those to me at the end. I'll turn them over to the city. And as Brooke said, their intent is to respond to all your comments to the best of their ability and post them. So I'll get to kind of our timing on this in a minute, but let me just throw out a few ideas for us to think about for this meeting. And ground rules are very simple. And I think the main thing is we want to respect each other. And we respect each other by a number of things. First of all, abiding by time commitments. So right now, given the number of speakers we have, I'm thinking we're going to start with 3 minutes for each speaker to make sure we get through everyone. And then when you're done speaking at those 3 minutes, so bear with me, probably at about the 2.5 minute mark, I'll say, time, which means you have a few seconds to wrap up. If you would like to speak, if you have more to say, and we get through everybody, we'll bring you back up. So we don't want to cut anybody off. We just want to make sure everybody has time to get through, okay? So that's the way we're going to do that, and I think that'll work well if you can help me by really holding to those 3 minutes, at least for the first round. Secondly, we really want to direct questions and comments to the city. This is really a city dialogue. They're sponsoring it. They want to hear from you. We really don't want each other, commenting to other people in the community. I think that would be counterproductive because it's really intended to be a listening session for the city and not a place to debate a point of view with other folks. There are other forums for doing that. or fora. So I ask you to make sure you're really just talking to the city and sharing your perspectives with them and not kind of engage other people. And again, just a reminder, and I probably don't even have to put this up here, but I just want to put it out there. Let's make sure we have a civil discourse. Respect the fact that we do have a wide kind of set of perspectives on this. I think we have to just believe that everybody has a right to their point of view, and there's some validity potentially in every point of view. And so we just want to have civil discourse with people, even if we totally disagree with them. And so I think we can disagree without being disagreeable. And so I just ask that we really try to keep our discourse in that vein. So just a few other things to maybe help make sure it's clear what this meeting is and what it is not. The city really would like to really just have this be a listen, clarify, and learn session. They want to listen to you. They want to be clear what you're saying, and that you may want to be clear about the city's point of view on certain things, and to the extent they can respond to that, they will. But I will say, from being with them a few weeks ago in their goal setting, what they really want to do is talk to the community on probably multiple occasions, make sure they really understand what the interests are, and work through that. So I don't know you can necessarily expect, and I guess, well, I'll get to in a minute, the City Council is not here to state their preference or their point of view. That, again, would kind of move us away from the intent of the meeting, which is to hear from you. And then another goal is to just help clarify the current status and the path forward, just to make sure that everybody has the same sense of that. And from talking to a few people in the community, I think there are at least a few misperceptions or lack of complete kind of up-to-date on where things are. And so hopefully we can accomplish that. What the dialogue is not, it's not a problem-solving session. We're not going to take an issue, whatever it might be, affordable housing, whatever, and try to work that issue to solve that tonight. That's not what we're here to do. We want to hear if you have a concern about affordable housing and what those concerns are, but we're not going to try to problem solve that. We're not going to have a mediation to identify what the possible outcomes might be. This is not a public hearing. If City Council and Frank had their preference, we'd be in one big circle here to have a very informal kind of setting. The only reason that there is, whatever this is, thank you, a lectern, is that if you have papers that you're reading from, you'll be more comfortable by being able to set them there. That's the only reason that's there. So it's definitely not a public hearing. And it's also, just to be clear, not a platform for City Council to express their preferences. So if you ask somebody on the City Council what their point of view is, I think you'll get a response of not tonight. Now, what are some of the focal points? I know one of the things City Council wants to do tonight is start a process of restoring and enhancing trust. I think there is a sense with this City Council that there's not the kind of trust that needs to be between the community and the city, and this City Council wants to turn that around and try to restore or enhance the trust between the community and them. And I know Frank feels the same way about city government. They'd like to create a new paradigm for community interaction so that there's a lot of this kind of meeting going on to really be clear about how the community feels. And of course, there are other tools that can be used to really make sure that there's a lot of genuine interaction with the community. They've stated in the meeting I was with them a few weeks ago, they'd like to see the community united to the extent possible. And I think they realize that people have strong points of view on kind of all sides of this particular issue. And so at the end of the day, it may not be possible to have everybody saying, oh, this is wonderful, but to the extent possible, they'd like to unite the community around not only this, but there are other issues in the community that can be divisive if there's not good dialogue and a sense that people are being heard, a sense that the city is responding to what they're hearing. And I think this City Council and this city government wants to do that. And so this is kind of a new paradigm, as I say, to try to move toward uniting the community. They recognize the validity of different points of view, and so they want to hear all that. Identify solutions that address multiple interests to the extent possible. And a lot of times we get in these kinds of dialogues and we create a position. I'm for or against, or I'm for if, or I'm against if. And instead, if we get to what are the underlying interests, why are people, for example, opposed to something, find out why, and then see if that can be solved. So that's getting at the multiple interests that are involved in the community, and City Council wants to identify solutions that, to the extent possible, address those. And then finally, to reinforce the role of you, the community, and the city, the leadership role you have to play in this process going forward, and there more can be said about that as we go along. Okay, I'm almost done. Thanks for putting up with me. What's next? May not be, we can't really say at the beginning what's next, but a sense of what's next, so you kind of see that so far. First, is City Council sees active city and community participation and leadership on working groups and the planning process moving forward. That's definitely something they anticipate. Additional community dialogues, I think that's up in the air, but if this kind of a dialogue proves helpful and useful to you and the city, I think they anticipate more, or at least some version of these, and then continue building stronger relationships between the city, community members, and the agencies that have to be engaged with in these processes. Last, the city is well aware, and I know many of you have probably been to umpteen meetings over the last several years related to this topic. So we want this to try to be a little bit different if we can. And we know that there are people that think this project is absolutely the best thing that could possibly happen to the city. And there are other people that say, I don't know why we're doing this, it's not even needed, and I can't really imagine supporting it. So we kind of know the bookends. And I think what would really help City Council are just making sure that they understand the key questions and the key concerns. So it may be, well, I can imagine maybe supporting this project if. What would that if be? What question do you need answered? What concern do you want addressed if the project were to go forward? I think that'll help us kind of hone in, and again, you may want to state your opinion. Obviously, you're for it, against it, or I'm supportive if. But I think the more we can move to the key questions and the key concerns, that'll help City Council and City Government figure out, hey, what do we have to do to move this thing forward? Okay? Everybody, any questions, any comments? The agenda is pretty clear. John, with TRPA, is now going to spend just a few minutes walking you through some slides just to make sure, probably most of you have been to many meetings, but just to make sure, we want everybody to have at least a basic sense of what this project is about. John's going to do that in about 10 minutes. And then we're going to start going through these cards. The rest of the meeting is really just listening to you. Okay? John?
Thank you. Can you hear this? No? Yes? Okay, good. I'm going to talk about what's on these boards, which you can't see, so I'll try to explain what you can't see. But essentially, back in November, the Tahoe Transportation District brought forth for permitting to TRPA an alignment for the 50 on the mountainside of the casinos around behind Rayleigh's. What the TRPA governing board said is, we will approve it with a number of conditions that I think are very, very important for you all to understand, and very important for you to know about when you talk to the council about what you'd like to see. So there are really about 5 things that I think are important. And they're not in any particular priority order, but I'm just going to go through them. One is, what happens to the part of 50 that is no longer US 50 when you move the highway? That's what we call the Main Street, or Main Street Management Plan. That doesn't mean that we're going to rename it Main Street, although maybe we would, or you would. But what happens to that space? So that's one process that is starting up. That planning process is starting up. Probably late this month. We're trying to get some of our consultants on board. But that process, what do you want to see on the old part of 50 when it's abandoned, or when 50's moved? So that's something that I think is very important to the City Council to hear. Second thing that has to happen before 50 can be moved is the housing. The TTD board and the TRPA board said, we're going to replace those housing units that are going to be moved out. We're going to replace them before we ever start building the new freeway. So that's something that in the Rocky Point neighborhood is the kind of the third thing is what happens in the Rocky Point neighborhood. One of the requirements the TRPA board put on is to the TTD is you need to do a plan with the Rocky Point neighborhood on what kind of amenities, by amenities I mean sidewalks, parks, those kind of things. What goes into the Rocky Point neighborhood? What are you going to commit to as part of this project before you can move the highway? Third thing is what kind of transit are you going to, is it going to be more frequent? It needs to be more frequent. What kind of circulator are you going to put into this area, the South Shore bi-state area, both sides of the state line? And so what that looks like is an important thing for you all to provide input on. And probably the last one, and one that I think is a current topic a lot of people have asked about, is what happens to parking? So one of the requirements is what's called a parking management plan. And that means where do people get to park free? Where do people get to park for money? How do you find out what parking spaces are available? All of those pieces have to get resolved before this project moves forward. And I think all of those pieces are what the City Council would like to hear about so they can represent your interests well. That's less than 10 minutes,
Okay.
but that's the key points. A couple of TRPA staff are here to answer questions. If I'm not, Michelle Glickert and Alyssa Bettinger, who are waving their hands back there. So if I can't answer it before I'm gone, they'll be happy to answer it. And do you want me to?
That's great. No,
Okay.
that's a good start.
Thank you.
Can we ask a question of the TRPA before he steps down?
Yeah, I think we could take maybe just a
No,
couple
just a quick
questions.
question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've been a 46-year resident of Lake Tahoe, right? And why wasn't this meeting held long before they made a decision and before the TTD got involved in this whole thing? Why weren't we consulted in this kind of a fashion prior to them saying it's a done deal?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, John.
All right.
I think it's also important. Oh, I don't have the answer. Does anybody have the answer to that question? Thank you. Brooke is going to.
Good answer.
Cody Bass is the representative on the Tahoe Transportation District, and I am the new representative on the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. And he and I together felt that the voice of the people was never requested ahead of a vote, and our representative from the council back then didn't even ask for the council's opinion. And we decided that that was wrong. We know now that we still can be very much a part of this process or not be a part of this process. So it was at our urgency that the city to say we need to talk to our residents now and often.
You can keep that. Thank you.
I have a question.
You know, what I'd like to do, if we could, I know you want to speak, and
I think it's a basic question that needs to be answered right now.
okay, we'll see if, okay, we'll take one more.
Early on, this project was labeled as anything but a city project.
Okay.
TTD advanced the idea that the city really was not a decision maker in this whole process. What's changed in the interim now that's brought this about, and the fact that there's city participation and the fact that there are city issues that have to be resolved?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, who'd like to respond to that?
I think what's changed is that at this point in the project, there are all of these other planning efforts that are just now getting underway as far as the Main Street Management Plan, the affordable housing component, the parking, the other components of the project. And those are items that the city absolutely needs to be involved in and wants to be involved in. And that's really what this meeting is for tonight, to start our more active involvement in those issues.
Yeah, but Frank, the way this reads, this is a done deal. They want our input, and they don't care.
Yeah,
The TRPA has approved this, the TTD formulated this, and it's being shoved down our throats. So therefore, you know, anything I have to say or anything all these people have to say is gonna fall on deaf ears, because the TRPA and the TTD really don't give a damn. Never have.
Amen.
That's right.
My understanding, and I'll just step in from My understanding from trying to get up to speed to know at least enough to kind of help guide this meeting is that the stage it's at now is conditions have been placed on the project by TRPA that require the city to be involved and to make sure they're willing to do to participate, and there's permitting, as I recall. There's a number of things that the city has to agree to before the project can move forward. So it seems like to me, from what I've heard, it's not a totally done deal because there are a number of facets of this project that the city has to agree on. But if I'm wrong, please correct me. Otherwise, that's my understanding of where we are here.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you hear me now? I'm sorry about that. Yeah, so the route of the road has been determined. The route of the road was analyzed, and I believe there were 21 different alternatives that were considered over the course of the last decade or more. Where we're at now is none of this stuff going forward has been determined, and the city wants to actively be a part of that planning and wants to know what all of you in the room here tonight think about that, so that our council can have an informed discussion and then make an informed decision about those issues going forward. So that's what has changed. We want to know what you think. We want to make sure that the council is representing your interests as effectively as they possibly can. And so I think tonight's a great start. It's a great turnout.
And I think also, if I understand it correctly, Cody, you're on the TTD board, Brooks on the TRPA board, Frank is on the staff committee to this project, and Tammy is on, and a couple of you are on the stakeholder group, along with some members of the Rocky Point, 3 members of the Rocky Point community. So there's a lot of representation from the city now in that stakeholder process. But I think now it's moving forward and see how that goes. But I hear the city council and the city saying we're playing an active role moving forward. They can't do anything about the past. They can jump in now and play an active role, as can you. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and start with our speakers. But we're going to, as I say, start with 3 minutes. And I'll give you about a 30-minute warning. And if you go too far over 3 minutes, I'll say, okay, please, we'll bring you back if we have time. And I'm going to just take as they were handed to me, so there's no, I don't know pretty much anybody in the room anyway, so this is not, any kind of predetermined way, so just as they were handed to me, and the first person they handed me a card was Brandy. So Brandy, please come up and share your views. And it would be helpful, I think, say your name, and if you are representing a particular group, that's great. If you're just representing yourself, please say that.
I'm Brandy Bannister. I just have a few concerns, and I'm speaking mostly for myself, even though I am on our school board up here. I went to the city council. These are just what I walked away with my concerns. For one, no one's talking of the impact of what will happen to Beechview School in that neighborhood. There's a lot of families, homes that will get removed and altered, whatnot, that will affect the school. And force families to move, maybe even out of our town, which can really make an impact on that school, which is very needed in our town, that school is. With this redevelopment, we already have a rental crisis. I am concerned about the cost of rents increasing when they're already high. I do understand that there's no such thing as truly affordable housing, but this is something that I am concerned about. Also, you're welcoming families and people our town to come and talk to you, and I really do appreciate that. But the majority of the people that tend to get impacted are not the ones that speak up. And I am concerned about that. You're normally getting the same people talking. I know you guys are probably already getting tired of me, but I just wanted to point that out, that that's how it works in our culture, that the people that really need to voice an opinion do not. One of the other things that I was concerned about with all the talk is that no one has talked about the impact of our traffic issue, which this winter we've definitely been experiencing. We've had school buses stuck in the traffic from all the way to Myers to the other end of town. That's one of the other concerns. I know Rocky Point community will be hit hard, the hardest, but there's also the outside communities there, which I personally live in. So it's going to impact us all, and I would really appreciate you considering it. The feeling that I got from the last city council meeting when the developers did their song and dance was, I feel like people of a higher income bracket are making decisions for our middle class and lower class. And I just really would prefer that you keep that into consideration. I personally feel they don't have a right to talk about where I live, the people that I love, my neighbors, and our children in this town, how it's going to impact them. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer Dixon.
My name is Jennifer Dickinson. I stand before you today with 30 years teaching behind me in this school district and the faces of countless children in my mind. I'm here for the future displaced children, some of whom are my students now. It's ironic that I followed Brandy. Thank you. I'll try and be as brief as I can. Many of those children live in multi-generational homes. I don't see anywhere in your plans for low-income housing access to for those families to have the low-income housing because it doesn't allow it. So what's the plan there? And I have several other questions. What is the state of Nevada sacrificing? What hard costs to our town have not been figured into your calculations? Legal costs, loss of business dollars, losses to the school district, which Brandy brought up. How much money do city taxpayers still owe for our hole in the ground and the parking garage? We are tearing out homes and small businesses in the interest of Nevada businesses. None of us will benefit from this project, but we'll be paying for it. And lastly, has anyone stopped to think of the inherent environmental racism embedded in this proposal? In that it will remove homes from our poorest residents? Thank you.
I'm Keith Klein, representing myself. Been up here 52 years. The first 30 years I was involved in a lot of this planning. The so-called Loop Road comes from the 1980s, the original redevelopment plan. So it's not something that's been thrust on this community. It started as a city project. At the time, there was not enough money to build that road. The concern then was the same thing as it is today, and this is the major concern: gridlock, traffic gridlock. Now, my family goes to Carson City and Reno and Minden, and by now we just know we're going to wait to get through the casino corridor. We don't want to drive through the corridor, but we have to because the only other alternative is to go back routes through the neighborhoods, which creates a tremendous health and safety problem for the people that live in that neighborhood. So I guess I look at this as a generational problem, and that's my key concern, is the traffic and congestion. It's a generational problem that was here in the 80s and 90s. It's still here today, and my question to the council is, do we want to wait another generation to address the question, or do we want to address it today? I sincerely hope the council decides to address it today instead of waiting for cost to double and triple. There's a lot of other issues involved, and there's no simple solution. You know that. But the major concern is gridlock. When I look at the plan, the proposed 50 alignment, I don't have a problem with. I don't have a problem with the proposed 50 alignment. By the way, it's not a freeway. It's a highway 50 with less signals, so you can get through there. The health and safety, the Main Street plan, I'm not so sure where that works, but maybe it works better than the K Street Mall or Ithaca Commons, where Cornell University is, where most of the year you can shoot a cannon down the middle of it because there's no traffic allowed. So I'll hold that as my two main points. One is it's a generational problem. We need to get rid of the gridlock, either in this generation or the next generation is going to say, why didn't you do it when you had a chance? And the other thing is the Main Street plan. That's a whole separate issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, next up, Gary and Linda Norton. Is this a tag team effort?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
I've been 45 years. Right?
Exactly. Keep it going. That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, my
No problem.
gripe about this whole thing is, number one, who's going to pay for it? I know you people don't have the money. Every time I turn around, after 45 years here at South Shore, now I was raised in Tahoe City. I've seen the lake change in almost 70 years. Some good, some bad. But the thing that gets to me is that the city keeps sending us bills that the TRPA needs this and the South Tahoe PUD needs money, and you guys don't even fix the roads up. Why don't you take that money that you want to put out here and take all these people's homes away from them and change all the power lines, the sewer lines, and everything else and put in low-income housing, which will be a barrio sooner or later. It does work that way. And put it in what you got. Instead of asking $30 a month for snow removal equipment, use that money for it. Pave your roads. There's roads out here right now that are a joke. And that's my original gripe. And now you want to spend it because you guys don't care about anybody but from Park this way. The city of South Tahoe does not exist from Park down to the Y. You guys talk about it, you look at it, you do all your things about it, just like that gentleman, the TRPA. Please understand, the first TRPA member is a family member. So I've seen a few things. But why don't you guys stop and look about for the people that pay your bills, pay the taxes every single year. And you guys don't care about it. And for your reference, my daughter went to UC Davis. And she went to the University of Hawaii and she got her master's in city planning. She's no dummy, born and raised up here. And I've been over this with her. And she's got a whole with friends that are worldwide in loop roads and city planning. This place cannot handle it. You've got state plow roads out there. You've got the state of California is going to look at this and go, what am I going to do here? But what about the truck that's got to stop there and back in where old Kennedy's Steakhouse used to be and block all 4 lanes? You ever thought about doing something about that? No.
Got about 30 seconds.
Okay, well, that's my gripe, that you guys don't care. All you care about is that silly loop road that bypasses the clubs. Harvey Gross and Bill Harrow is probably laughing their guts out right now. You're up.
My question is, what I wrote down, is what gives the TRPA and the TTD the right to bully our city into this project? You know, I feel like we're being bullied into something, and I'd like to ask the audience of the people that are here today that are interested, how many really are happy with this project, and how many? So raise your hand if you want the realignment. And raise your hand if you don't want it.
I don't know about you, but
So-
I got a high school education, a college education. I see more hands.
Anyway,
Okay.
one other
Thank you, sir.
thing. I know I'm running out of time, but the one thing our
No,
daughter...
you've got your own 3 minutes. That's fine.
Oh, the one thing that our daughter has said to me in the past when she's worked with city council people and attorneys is, okay, you have all these great pie in the sky ideas. Where's the money?
Show me the money.
There's a whole lot of people that are going to be
Until you can come up
displaced.
with that money, you guys should, this shouldn't even be here. The plans are
All
nice.
right, you're done.
Hey. I was in business.
Well, it's certainly true. It's gonna require some funds, doesn't it? Al Bulf.
I have a home at 2363 Marshall Trail. So I do pay taxes up here, have a piece of the landscape. Anyway, I'm a rail planner. I came up here to offer you another option of running a rail line from Reno and Reno Airport down the old V&T and a tunnel under the Kingsbury grade and bring the rail line. This would be all electrified, and I helped start 4 others, by the way they're operating today. And one, the Sacramento Light Rail System, was built with the money that Caltrans wanted to build a parallel freeway, which we didn't think was very viable. But anyway, this rail line would connect right down the main street here, and we texture the pavement so you wouldn't stay on it with an automobile. It would be a rail right-of-way for streetcars, and it would also run all the way to Mount Reba and Kirkwood through a tunnel under Luther Pass, and also have a connection into Camp Richardson. You need to clean up the air, the soil, and everything. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the amount of black snow is increasing. And I talked to one of your traffic officers the other day, and he said the traffic problem is increasing. You need to do something else. And we have support for this rail system from Dr. Cahill and Goldman, who run the Environmental Center for UC Davis at North Tahoe. They said this is the ultimate fix. Besides putting a tunnel, another tunnel, under the from Myers to Twin Bridges. That should be done. That should have been done a long time ago. How much energy is lost keeping that road clear of snow? And I talked to Caltrans people. They're starting to run out of snow de-icing compound because of the extreme weather situation back east. And this rail system will also, enhance the whole community. You need to get away from the dependency of the automobile and its effects in the basin. All the stuff from the parking lots and out the binding agents in the pavement and the parking lots is all going in the lake. So my suggestion is with this tunnel under Kingsbury grade, not only for highway and rail, but you also make it as a water tunnel. When the water gets so high, instead of dumping flood water down the Truckee into Reno and Sparks, you have a weir in this tunnel, and when it gets so high, it spills over and goes down to benefit the people in the Carson Valley.
30 seconds.
And also, this would clear up the clarity of the lake, too, because there would be more circulation. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Robbins.
Good evening. The Loop Road says a great deal about what our municipal government values. The Loop Road could go north via Pine Boulevard, where it would impact fewer than a dozen homes. But those homes are owned by wealthy, mostly white people, so that's not an option. The Loop Road could go slightly to the east, diagonally through the Village Shopping Center's parking lot, making Heavenly Village Way a pedestrian mall, where it would impact nobody's homes. But that business is owned by wealthy white people. The Loop Road Instead, it will go through 97 mostly Hispanic, mostly working class homes, demolishing an entire neighborhood. And you are okay with that. The reason why is transparent to anyone with eyes, and I'm not okay with that. Promises of replacement housing ring utterly hollow in the real world when deed restrictions will prohibit those displaced from accessing that very housing. When that housing is pushed from walkable neighborhoods into remote sections of a town with no meaningful public transit. Caltrans, in its infinite wisdom, motivated by its belief that fires don't happen in California, has seen fit to blockade our primary southbound evacuation route with a traffic circle. This project continues that intrepid reasoning with another blockade on our only eastbound evacuation route. If the town actually wanted to create a main street for locals, we wouldn't be talking about State Line at all. We'd be talking about Ski Run Boulevard. We'd be talking about the Y. But we're not. Because this is a project for tourists, first, second, and last. For the casinos, for Vail Resorts, for the hotels, not for locals. Whom do you represent?
Thank you. Dale Roberts.
Okay, my first question to you is, how much money have you got right now for this project? Somebody's got an answer. Zero? Okay, thank you. Have you got any guarantees to get money? Anybody got an answer? No, you don't, do you? Okay, I did a rough estimation last night. It's gonna cost $25 to $30 million to buy all these houses that they're gonna tear down. Okay, a few years ago, they had a highway guy. They're gonna shove this thing right now. It's a done deal, right? We're gonna do this no matter what. We just wanna make it perfect. Okay, now, you guys a couple years ago, TDT brought him in, a government highway lawyer guy. He said, when this happens, something needs to be done. I need to sell my house. I own my house there. It's my home. My house is gonna disappear. Am I gonna have to wait? Okay, any realtor in here, I know we got a few, will say, I have to disclose the fact this house is gonna disappear in a few years. Who's gonna buy it? I'm now being held hostage by the TTD, the TRPA, in a house that I want to sell right now, and I can't sell it. So I can't move until I get the money. And I can't move until I sell the house until they give me the money. This lawyer that they had, when I put this question to him, he says, now that my house cannot be sold because of disclosure, they need to buy it right now. Okay? This is the deal. I'm selling my house. See, I'm coming by tomorrow, and I want fair market value. And you can tear it down before it becomes a crack home, and you'll have your first house to start this project. Are you ready for that? I'm gonna come tomorrow. Papers in hand. You better be ready to buy. Or you're gonna be leaving yourself open to a class action suit from me and everybody else who are unable to sell their homes. And now you gotta cough up the rest of the money for the low-income housing or your replacement housing. You're gonna have to come up with the money to redo. Okay, this is a federal highway. Yeah, you should have been talking to our illustrious government right now and said, where's the money so we can get this project rolling? Because this is a federal highway. You haven't. What's this saying about you guys? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Nicole Williams.
My name's Nicole Williams. I own Black Cabin Coffee. We are on the outskirts of the project, but we are directly affected. As you can see on the maps, we're slated for partial acquisition, which doesn't work for us personally. we can talk about that as we get further into this project. We operate a business in the hub of the Rocky Point community. Those are our friends, those are our neighbors. Even the neighbors that don't come into our business walk through my property every day. We know that neighborhood. Anne is the point person for the excuse me, I get really nervous talking, the Rocky Point neighborhood. And so I hope to work more with her and as this project develops to really fill in some of the gray area of what happens in that neighborhood and what is needed. It's safety. This project could potentially make that area a lot safer. Matt at the Elizabeth Lodge sees it every day. There is a sidewalk right in front of his property that crosses Pioneer Trail. It might as well be in the middle of Highway 50. Nobody stops there. It is incredibly dangerous. And yes, there's so many people in that neighborhood that walk to the casinos, that walk to work, that walk to and from their homes in that neighborhood. And whatever happens in this project, that area needs to be safer to get from that neighborhood into the tourist core area. I do want to also note that, that tourist core area is really a lot of the heart of Tahoe, and, how many of us came here on vacation and loved it so much that we had to be here, and we worked really hard to get here and really hard to stay here. And the people that are coming now, since the Heavenly Village has been redeveloped, they're bringing families, they're going skiing, they're walking the Heavenly Village, they are walking our downtown area, which when I moved here in 1999, that wasn't a downtown area that you walked with kids. So I think there are some benefits to redevelopment, and it has made our tourist core area better for families. I think the biggest issue down there, locals and tourists coming to spend time and money in that area and generate tax revenue for our city, there's nowhere to park. The parking plan is not a parking plan. That's existing parking that they are saying this is the plan for parking, is parking at the casinos and having everybody walk. When we want to go to the movie theater, we wait till late at night and we park at Rayleigh's so that we can walk across the street. And so
About 30 seconds.
Not adding parking is not a solution to this project. So parking, safety, and we're on board. We just save Black Cabin Coffee. We do want to be part of this town still, and we're on the outskirts of this, and I think, could be saved. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Matt Sanchez.
Thank you. Thanks, Nikki.
Thanks.
Yes, I'm Matt Sanchez. I'm the manager of the Elizabeth Lodge. When I first came here, I remodeled a condo down on Bonanza, right next to the infamous C&M Motel. It had been taken down and they put in a park. Beautiful, nice job. We are now, or were, considered next in line after the C&M. We did our best to come under the guidance of the SRO program, and we're very happy to do that. Let me backtrack a little bit. At the last time I spoke, I got a little chuckle from everyone when I mentioned about Cody having some ways of getting funding. I'd like to say that the city and the county has really dropped the ball on these millions of tax dollars that could be had. Next, I noticed that I was way too nice in my speaking of the problems of that area. Yes, there's an infrastructure problem. Yes, there's a traffic problem. Yes, there's a bunch of problems over there. But right now, we have a very big problem of vagrants in that neighborhood. And they're being invited to stay there in that neighborhood. There's illegal camping when the weather gets good. right behind the 7-Eleven. The police department are zero help to us in our business. I've sent away personally a couple of people in the ambulance. I've told the chief I'm not calling the police department anymore. My boss happens to be there now. He calls occasionally, but they've been very rude to him, saying that if the crime isn't being happening on our property, don't call them. Well, they know that it's us that's calling, and they come back and they retaliate against us. So I've had our property in the past 3 years broke into, cars broke into my office, assaulted numerous times with 0 arrests. 0.
About 30 seconds.
So I've talked with the chief about this. I said, I'm not calling. Well, guess what? I'm not letting anybody leave next time they come onto my property and they break the law. So, with all that being said, I'd like to let the city know that there is an ongoing criminal element problem in that neighborhood, and either you start taking care of it now or it's going to get worse. And especially when there's more high-end businesses going to be there and more wealthier people being there. So please understand, we're for the project. We understand in that neighborhood, my name is Matt Sanchez. In that neighborhood, there's very little pride of ownership, and all the infrastructure needs to be redone. So thank you for your time, and let me know if I can be of help.
Thank you. Bill Cottrell.
Thank you. My name is Bill Cottrell, and I represent the Lake Tahoe Resort Hotel. Been at that property now for nearly 21 years, seen a lot of activity out front. And my biggest concern is if we don't do anything, who's next in line to get hurt from getting hit by a truck, car, tourist, commuter? For the last number of years, I've been at that stoplight out front of us at State Line Avenue. And the number of cars that run red lights, the trucks, the panel trucks, all the commuters are in a hurry to get to work or leave work and get home. And the commuters just want to get through. It's a very unsafe area, and we support this road, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. David Jenkins.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, Mr. Rush. I wanted to just summarize something that I submitted to you in writing, since not everyone gets copies. First, I do live at 712 Whitney. I am a city resident. I've been a city resident for 17 years. I did want to say that where there was a comment made that the route of this road has been determined. In the end, I think it's up to the city council will make that decision of whether it's an appropriate route. And the issue of where a downtown is determined by the city council, the elected leaders of the community, not other parties. In July of 2013, I wrote a letter to Mr. Knotts regarding this project. And there are a few points I just want to mention. It was based on policy at that time. One, that the city council took the position that there would be no eminent domain used. Secondly, that a fiscal impact report that TTD should fund a city-managed study to fully examine the fiscal impacts of the proposed loop road on existing city businesses, not just in that narrow area around Heavenly Village, so that the full extent of its impact will be known. That there should be a mitigation fund based upon the findings of that economic study to mitigate if possible, negative impacts on businesses throughout the community. Secondly, that if a project is built, there should be a local jobs preference. That is, if people who are unemployed here or looking for work or want work, they should be given preference in jobs that are made by a project like this. Finally, how am I doing on time? Okay.
You're doing fine.
Okay. The US 50 Highways Realignment and Redevelopment Housing Project is a local project. This is a local project. There's a letter from the District Director of Caltrans, Mr. Benapal, dated May 5, 2016, which he makes the point that you are correct that the decision for the realignment project lies at the local level. There is no more local level than city government, city's elected leaders. Not regional government, but city leaders. So Mr. Benapal, the city has that, it's in the record. There are some remainder questions. Any project built in the city limits under California law has to, for capital improvement projects or whatever, there has to be findings made by the Planning Commission and the City Council that is consistent with the general plan, both the housing elements and all those elements. Secondly, there's an issue regarding replacement of water and sewer lines that the South Tahoe Public Utility District has been told that there'll be no cost to them. What are the guarantees that that will occur? And I know Mr. Thiel and his board will be very interested in that.
About 30 seconds.
Local match. What is the local match? The questions have been raised by others. Where are the funds coming from and where for this, and what is the local match? The Federal Highway Administration in Sacramento doesn't know the answer yet. Housing relocation, very important. Do all the people who get displaced get housing back here? Eminent domain, we've talked about. Impact on school enrollment, that was another issue. And finally, it was addressed, the issue of adequate parking plan. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Bruce Grego.
Hello, Bruce Grego, I'm a city resident. Not this council, but our councils of the past have been. All right. How do you tighten
It
this?
should be okay.
Don't be shy.
I won't be shy.
Can you hear me now? How about now? Someone help me.
Yeah. Okay. There.
Not this council, but councils of the past have been fooled in believing they understood the feelings of the public. We had Measure T on the Loop Road, it passed. We had Measure P that dealt with parking and parking meters. The city opposed that and it passed. We had Measure C where the city wanted to tax us for road improvement, and that measure failed. And then we have the newest Measure T regarding VHRs, and it passed. I think the councils in the past have misunderstood the feelings of the public. You can see from what we've heard already, there's a lot of issues and lots of feelings and lots of interpretations. But it comes down to this: place the question on the ballot. Place the question on the ballot and let us decide. Your duty is not the TRPA, TDD, Nevada interest, but the people that elected you and this community. Let us have that voice. Let us have a full debate of all these issues on the paper, on radio, on the internet, and let's have a vote. That's the way to resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth Vollmer.
Change is scary. We don't know how exactly this project will look or what will happen with our community. But we can't stop change. The world around us is changing, and we need to adapt. Our reliance on our vehicles is affecting the global climate and clogging our local streets. We have to look for solutions that help our community adapt to our changing world. Building an area where people can stay and recreate all without driving is a huge move in the right direction for our community. There will be access to the mountains via the gondola and a walking bridge to Van Sickle By State Park, a half-mile walk, bike, or scoot to the Lake Tahoe shore, access to bike paths that span from Round Hill Pines to Baldwin Beach. It's going to be awesome. People will want to leave their cars at their hotels and get out around our town on foot. I hear people say it's for the tourists. Yes, tourists will enjoy it, and they will stay in our new, beautiful, welcoming State Line area. They will also come and spend their money. Our economy in Tahoe is driven by recreation. According to the Tahoe Prosperity Center, visitor services account for 62% of our local economy. Our workforce, our peers, rely on people visiting and recreating in Tahoe. Projects like the Community Revitalization Project will bring people to and provide jobs for our town. The current alignment of Highway 50 is unsafe for walking and biking. We've all seen people darting across the highway, and I cringe every time I bike through the casinos. This project is not just for the tourists. Some of the largest employers in Tahoe are located in the project corridor. With this project, we have the opportunity to greatly improve the experience and safety for all who work and commute to and through the State Line area. I couldn't be more excited for Tahoe to take on this project and to move us away from our reliance on vehicles and prioritizing safe recreation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Lou Pierini. That. Pierini. Thank you. Lou, are you present? Okay, we'll hold on Lou and hope he'll show up. Oh, he just walked out?
Must be present this week.
Okay, in that case, we'll move on, and if Lou comes back, we'll get him up here. Scott Ramirez.
Good evening. This is becoming a bad habit. In the early 80s, I was a student at South Tahoe High School. And as a student, I was in the band. Our band was taken to then Park Tahoe to celebrate the grand opening of the new beautiful loop road. This road was supposed to route traffic that was headed west along Park Avenue over by Edgewood, and traffic that was headed east behind Harrah's and split the traffic. This plan could still happen. There is a middle ground. We could redirect traffic in front of Rayleigh's and have westbound traffic go one way and eastbound traffic come the other way. This wouldn't require evicting people. This wouldn't require removing a lot of small businesses. There are other options. It would also provide the area along the casino corridor 2 lanes and reduce traffic. There are other options that don't require removing people from their homes. If you look at the development at State Line, we have consistently removed small businesses in favor of big businesses. Families that have been here for generations, invested in this town, lost their businesses. This is not right. These people have invested their time and energy in this town, and we need to support small businesses the same way, or maybe to a larger degree, than our big businesses. Because in fact, the small businesses employ more. I have 3 main points that I'd like to ask. This city needs to ask, what happened to the original Loop Road plan? What were the original routing? And why have those plans been dropped in favor of evicting local businesses and local residents? 2, how much will this cost the city? 3, if you look at the plans, the TRPA did a Caltrans study. That study did an average of how traffic would be impacted. The reality is, on weekends and on holidays, which are not the average, the majority of traffic is bound to the same area that they're going to reduce to 2 lanes and reduce the parking. How does continuing to develop, drawing additional people, additional cars, and reducing the lanes for that traffic benefit that area? Most reasonable people would say it doesn't.
About 30 seconds.
I would ask that the city go back to the TRPA and the TTD and tell them that the selection of routes is open to negotiation by the city for what benefits the city the best, not just the traffic, not just the route they prefer. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ed Moser.
Good evening, Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. I've lived almost the entire time, 25 years that I've lived here down Lakeside Park area. And so I know the area well. I'm there every day, several times a day. 98% of the time, there is no traffic problem. It's probably a little higher than that, actually. That's given the benefit of the doubt. Question that the community needs to ask itself is, do we really want our downtown to be 6 hotel casinos and 2 tourist villages? You know, is that where you want to bring your kids? Do you want to spend $20 to park to go bowl where they plan on putting a bowling alley in the whole project there? You know, tourists come here and they want to drive to Emerald Bay, they want to drive around the lake, Kirkwood, Sierra Tahoe, and they can't even get breakfast in Heavenly Village without a 1.5 hour wait. And we're going to be adding another 400 or 500 rooms there, large places, going to be 3, 4, 5 bedroom places, and more people. This is supposed to be for Revitalization project, now it's called. Well, the area is already over revitalized, and they're not even done. So, you know, good try. Some of the questions, one solution for the traffic is we have a transit center that's never been used for transit. It was supposed to be like NASA and have monitors in there, and they were going to have satellites guiding the buses, and nobody could work the $2.5 million system we got, and it vanished. You could put somebody there, a couple of people. You could put monitors there. The technology has been there for years. They're using smart pavement, everything in Sacramento and a number of other cities. You can put cameras and monitors at intersections all the way down Highway 50, or at least for 1.5 miles or 2 down from Park Avenue or State Line. And you can monitor from the transit center, have monitors, and they can control the traffic lights. When you have Wildwood, a light at Wildwood, when I stood there one day for 2 hours and watched, and 2 vehicles in 2 hours came up to that light down Wildwood. They can easily cross over to Ski Run there. You really don't need that light, or you don't need it to be sitting there for 1.5 minutes red holding up traffic. So the traffic is poorly managed here, always has been. So you can control it. You can regulate the traffic during peak times and not have the problem that exists today. Problems with this is with this rerouting, with the Main Street plan, is snow removal. I asked at one meeting we had at the school years ago, what do you do with snow? And the consultant said, oh, we'll push it west. Yeah, so from State Line Avenue, you're going to push it west to Park Avenue. Good luck.
About 30 seconds.
You know what we have to do now, where they put it in the middle? There's going to be a median in the middle, so that takes that out of the equation. Emergency vehicle access. When you look at their plan, there's not going to be room for, when cars are there and it's going to be jammed up with 1 lane each way, you're not going to have police and fire being able to get through. So you're going to lose emergency vehicle access there. So like I said, this area is already over revitalized, and people complain at Chinokas of traffic going through there now. Pine Boulevard will become the alternate US 50. People coming are not going to make a left and go around the traffic circle up behind the casinos and all the way back around, hit 2 lights and have to wait down there to get on the Highway 50. They're just going to go right down along Edgewood, go down Pine Boulevard. There's one stop sign at State Line and Lakeshore Parkway, and bing, all the way around and up. So that's going to be your alternate US 50, which was supposed to be the original loop road. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan Brown.
This is becoming problematic. There's so many flaws with this project, there's not enough time to enumerate them. But I just want to give you a little history. I've worked on the Loop Road, I've worked on redevelopment since 1982. Okay? John Cephalo, right, the dean of South Lake Tahoe, and I worked on the Highway 50 project when Vern and Bobby Sprock still owned Sierra Ski Ranch. Okay? That no longer exists. We've been bought out by corporations. And this whole project, right, is being driven by outside foreign corporations, right? Not for us, because I asked the question, what's in it for me? Not me personally, but this whole community. Nobody can give me the answer. So before you guys make a decision, you need to ask and answer that specific question. What's in it for me? Meaning the city of South Lake Tahoe. Because if you can't answer that question, believe me, the city will. The people that reside here will. They will vote this council out like they did the last one, and we will continue to vote the council out until they see it our way. We pay your salaries, you don't pay ours, okay? So therefore, you know, start thinking about us more than the TRPA. I was involved with TTD back in the 90s. I voted that out with Measure A. Okay, nobody's talked about that. I was very involved in that. I got 73% of the vote, right? And I'll do it again. Not a threat, an outright promise, okay? You need to listen to us. We matter, right? Not the special interests that are promoting this entire project. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. John Cephalo.
Get an A for pronouncing that correctly.
Thank you. I had a warm-up, though, if you recall. I had to get it right, so.
Thank you. I would normally ad-lib my comments, but I thought that I should document them so I can be as accurate as I can. But I don't think I got an answer to the question I posed earlier regarding how this became all of a sudden a community project, a city project, from what was originally advanced as a TTD project with no city input. And I understand the TRPA at least recognized the city had to be a part of this process. And I think that's wise. We all knew that the city had to prevail in that argument, but nobody would ever come forward and verify the fact that when you talking about eminent domain, taking city property to complete the project, demolition of all that area that's to be demolished, obviously the city has to be intimately involved. What is remarkable about this so-called community outreach is that over the course of the past several years, the Loop Road project was touted to be nothing more than a TTD undertaking, excluding any city participation to exercise its authority. We now find that the city and city council indeed are an integral part of the process, and its consent and cooperation are essential to this project moving forward. The very fact that the city and then city council chose to ignore the citizens' effort to insist that they be included in the decisions regarding this project, refusing to recognize their standing in spite of 60% approval of the ballot measure, the refusal to defend the lawsuit that was brought by an individual who is now a city council member and a city attorney and city manager at the time who refused to defend the citizens of this community, and now to ask the citizens of the community to come forward and render their support for this project resembles throwing fuel on the fire. I can tell you for certain that this issue has remained, although silent somewhat, an issue that the residents of this community resented, the fact that they should be excluded from any participation. To request that the city be called to finance a portion of the cost of this project is beyond belief when it is unable to fund the maintenance of its own street system. I feel confident to say, and I'm sorry if I insult some, that had the entire city council stood for election last November, you'd see 5 new faces instead of 3. There are votes to approve this.
About 30 seconds.
Okay, you should see 5 new faces rather than 3. And if anyone thinks that they are the votes to approve the use of eminent domain, you have another thing coming. I think you've got a tall mountain to climb if you think you're going to get a 4/5 vote out of this council. This project would have a detrimental effect on the economy of this community, and the physical disruption for a number of years would be devastating. And what I'm saying is the very construction that's to take place in that neighborhood is going to cause real disruption and unfortunate effects on the business that exists nearby. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dwayne Wallace.
It's family affair. My name's Dwayne Wallace. I'm the executive director of the South Tahoe Chamber of Commerce, but I'm also speaking partly for myself. And in the interest of disclosure, I am in love with one of your council members, but she actually told me I couldn't spell that right. She wrote it.
You brought your own cheering section.
Progress for the, I'm going to be a little bit of preaching and a little bit of questions. Progress for the sake of progress is not progress. It's just movement. And I've been involved with redevelopment ever since it began. In fact, I was one of the people who put the original measure, I think it was Measure A, on the ballot. Somebody asked me, why am I having trouble with this one? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about that. And I don't know, maybe in my old age I've gotten a little more concerned about individual people and not so much just about the almighty dollar. But as Brooke said, the other council, the way they set things up, you could be a representative to TTD or TRPA, and they didn't do a lot of reporting back to the council. I would sit in the council meetings and see that, and some things slipped by, some key votes, and you'd think, well, you got to know everything, but you got a lot to read. I know someone who's doing it. And so I think it needs to back up. As much as everybody says it shouldn't back up, those who have said that the original guitar, I call it, figure won't work, I think are not being fair with us. And we're one of the last tourism towns that I know of where the people can live and work here at the same time. We're very close. We have a working base, that's the practical reason, practical part. Then we have a Hispanic and Filipino community that I've come to really love because I've started working at Bijou School. So the school district people are right. Every child is about 7,000, so 5 to 7,000. So you're talking about 200 kids, a little over $1 million could be lost. In Nevada, that's partly what happened to the Whittle High School. And to be fair, the project that I've mentioned lately, and Lynn Barnett, who worked for TRPA, verified this for me. He worked for them at the time. There are 140 units built back of Lakeside and in other places. And only one of the homes of the people that were being relocated ended up in those homes because of the HUD rules and affordable housing rules. So now you take this community that I'm
About
talking
30
about.
seconds.
I could do it.
I'm sure you can.
There are undocumented people, there are large families there, and those people are not considered as part of this. I guarantee you. That people say, well, they're just out of luck. They're here. Our country let them here. Door shut behind them or whatever. But by golly, I don't think we abandon our workforce, and I don't think we abandon the cultural community we've got there. Thank you.
Thank you. Tamara Laub.
Don't ever play your wife.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and TRPA staff. My name is Tamara Laub. I'm a native Northern Nevada. I've lived in Tahoe, State Line, and South Tahoe as well for over 30 years, since 1987, worked and lived there. I'm here tonight to speak in support of the effort to make the long overdue changes to the Highway 50 roadway, which will benefit all of us who live and here and our visitors. Today we have an unsafe roadway condition that affects both the commercial and the private traffic coming through the downtown area. We also have roadway infrastructure, especially on the state light sign, which does not adequately mitigate drainage and storm runoff, all of which eventually flows into Lake Tahoe. The Main Street Management Plan can address these issues, which will benefit all of us. It deals with not just the pretty picture, but all the technical engineering, transportation management, and social impacts of the project. The Main Street Management Plan that was approved by the TRPA Board of Governors on January 23rd is a great start to identifying all of the issues and concerns which must be successfully addressed for this project to move forward. And as it moves forward, new issues will emerge that will need to be addressed as well. My hope is that if all the issues are addressed, we can finally move this project forward after over 10 years of meeting, planning, and negotiating. My personal interest is at stake as well. I have the non-casino resort property in the State Line Main Street Management area. It's where the CVS, Lucky Beaver, and Lake Tahoe Ale Works, as well as 9 other tenants are, and businesses. Since my husband died 2 years ago, I've immersed myself in the issues of my tenants, all of which have long-term leases. We've been trying for over 2 years to make repairs and improvements to the property with very little success. As we all know, the current approval process is frustrating and difficult. I support this project because the rerouting of the commercial traffic. It's super dangerous. Those sidewalks, I've walked them since 2011, back and forth in front of my building. In the winter, you'll just get splashed by a big truck with water. It's impossible to walk on there without having a negative experience. The people running across from the concerts that are happening there and everything else is, people have been hit by cars. They don't really talk about that much. It's super dangerous. The improvements on the streetscape will creating a new pedestrian-friendly atmosphere that we see like in the Heavenly Village would really benefit all of us. And the encouragement to improve state line properties, including my property, and it will benefit everyone who lives there. Thank you.
Thank you. Jerry, excuse me, Jerry Bindell. Dadgummit. I know I blew it.
Hi, my name's Jerry Bindell. Like Cody, I have a lot of hats that I wear in this community. I've been in the community for about 20 years, and I'm representing the South Lake Tahoe Lodging Association as well as Forest Suites Resort. I'm the general manager there. Forest Suites Resort, as a lot of you know, is kind of ground zero for the project. And so I just want to say that the Lodging Association as well as the ownership of my property are fully in support of this project, because we see that there's no sustainability to what we have right now. Like many of the other speakers said, safety is one of the #1 issues. I, like many of the others who work in that area, kind of drive the back roads to go to our work. Those back roads, we call them the S-turns, because you go right, you go left, you go right. Extremely dangerous. You've got kids that are going out to the school buses in the morning. You've got icy roads, certainly, these days. It's just really, really not sustainable in that area. Additionally, gridlock. The gridlock on Fridays, the gridlock on holidays, at that state line core is also not sustainable. It's not sustainable for our visitors or our locals. And additionally, there's a number that a lot of us haven't known, is that about 60 or more % of the transportation that goes through our town is going through our town. It's not actually staying in our town because it's a major highway. So you've got trucks that are going through the town east and west, and they're going through and they're stopping at areas where there's pedestrian crosswalks, like Bill Cottrell said he saw outside Lake Tahoe Resort Hotel. Extremely dangerous. Those trucks don't go around the backside, but they certainly go down on a lot of pedestrian areas. Thirdly, the third reason that the Lodging Association and my ownership supports is that we see the vision of what this could be. We see this downtown core as being something that is in itself an attraction. It'll be walkable streets. It'll be festivals that we could have. We could potentially shut down those areas and really have something community-based, visitor-based, both getting together. And really, we see in our lodging community this vision, and we're excited about this vision. There are questions that have to be answered. This is a great outreach. You should be commended for the start of this. We've gone to a lot of outreaches in the past. The lodging community has been presented to, but obviously some of the citizens haven't seen this and have not heard this. So this is classic. This is good. But some of the questions are financing. You know, there is a big discussion. Is the city going to be financing this or not? That has to be put out and put out strongly in words. Multi-generation housing. I know I actually have some employees that live in this area.
About 30 seconds.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. I have employees who live in those areas, and they are multi-generation housing. And, you know, it's capacity that we need to understand as we're getting affordable housing in other areas. We need to understand that dynamic and work through it. There are going to be subcommittees formed. We know that. We got to get on these. City council members, citizens have to get on these subcommittee groups and voice our concerns as well as hear the answers. There are answers out there, and they're subject to change as well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bob Niedermeyer.
I just have a single question, kind of brought up by the title of this project. It seems to me that the sense of the project developers is that by simply realigning Highway 50, they are going to revitalize the entire South Shore community. Yes. Okay, so being responsible developers, they must have been established measurements that they could use to determine the present level of vitality of the entire South Shore community. And therefore came up with the conclusion it needs to be revitalized. And as responsible project developers, they must have firm expectations as to what percentage increase they will find in all these vitality measurements. So I wondered, when you post things on your website, you'll be able to come up with answers for that. Thanks.
Thank you. Heidi Hill-Drum. Has Lou come back in the room? We lost Lou? Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this session. I have attended many hearings on this this project, but I love you, Dwayne, but I have a quote from Mark Twain that everyone loves progress, but no one likes change. And this is one of those projects. It is transformative. It is by state. It is not just in the city of South Lake Tahoe. As leaders, you can't change people's minds, and I don't think you should even try. You've heard both sides tonight, over and over. And I'm not going to try and change someone's mind, and they're not going to change mine. So thank you for leading, despite that. It makes your jobs that much harder because you have to, at some point, move forward, one way or the other. And there will be people on both sides who will challenge that and be frustrated with that because their minds aren't going to be changed. So I just wanted to say thank you for being leaders in our community, despite how hard your jobs are. So yeah, I think we should all thank you for that. So again, back to the transformative project that this is. The Heavenly Village project was transformative. It was also, there was a lot of opposition to it back in the day. I've lived here 25 years. I don't usually say that because I always feel like that doesn't matter. If I live here 1 year or 25 years, it shouldn't matter. I live here. I'm a part of this community. I'm a mom. My kids go to Bijou. And I care so much about those people in our community who are in this area where they will be rehoused. I work for an organization that will help make that happen. We are committed to making that happen, and we will partner with the organizations to make that happen. So I'm not going to let that not happen. So that's part of it as well. And lastly, now the Heavenly Village project, I see locals there, I see visitors there. We all enjoy it. We all thrive down there. Our community is thriving in that area. Our data has shown that in our report, that it is transformative in a positive way for the economy. It's been positive for the environment, and it's been positive for our community. So again, just thank you for leading. It's a challenging job you have, so kudos, because there's a lot of us that couldn't do it, so thank you.
Thank you. That's the last card I received from folks that indicated earlier that you wanted to speak. Is there any? We have another card. All right. Is there anybody else who would like to speak that has not yet had the opportunity? Or somebody who had the opportunity and wants to say a little bit more? Okay. You'll be next. Anybody else? Okay. Please, Laurel Ames.
Thank you. And thank you, City Council. This is different and new, and I really appreciate it. We were told at the beginning of this that we have bookends, and we should stay within the bookends.
Well, we can't hear you.
Well, I can't fix that.
Step right on up to the, be close.
All right, how's that?
Sounds better.
All right. So here's the bookend that I want to shove out. And what we have here in this town is we are just at the end of what's happening all over this country with huge traffic jams and huge, I mean, I was told today that if you're down in the Bay Area, that it's horrible. It's rush hour traffic all day long. Well, that impacts us too. And moving a road and taking down my personal problem, 800 trees in this project. It's not in this list anywhere. We have to deal with this in some other way. Building another road is not a solution to a huge population problem. And if they get tired of coming here because they can't drive anymore, they'll go someplace else. And it won't be the end of the world. I lived here when there were 300 people that lived in this town. We did just fine. But I really I want to offer you the suggestion that you look beyond this project. This project has got some kind of weird life of its own, and it may not suit us at all. It may not solve any of our problems. And I think now we have suddenly opened this up, you have opened this up to us, from what was just a bound and determined, you're gonna do it our way. And we were all struggling and frustrated, and as Dan Brown said, we just keep doing these petitions. Now you have an opportunity. Step back, take a look at the big picture, and see what this does for us in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. We may be on the verge of another giant recession. And you know what that does to a tourist town. So I think it's important to think outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you. This gentleman here in the second row. You want to speak again? Okay.
Hi guys, how you doing? I'm Luca, Lake Tahoe Ale Works. Like Heidi and several others tonight, I just want to commend you guys. Anyone in this room that says straight to your face that you don't care, I'm sorry, I can't take that person serious because you're here. You spent the time to run and get elected. You clearly care about this community. I know you've all been here a long time, or new to it, and definitely still care about the community. I'm in support of this project. I don't know. Do we like the factory stores at the Y more, or do we like the crossing? I don't. Sorry, guys. Change is good. I mean, the Y is getting attention. You know, in the last 2 years, the crossing and a number of other businesses have really sparked a resurgence in the whole Y side of town. Yes, we have a lot of roads that are hurting. We all know that. But let's look at the positive side. We got new curbs, gutters, and roads going all the way down the whole Y side of town, and they're getting ready to continue it all the way through to Coldwater in the middle of town at Sierra Boulevard there.
That was all brought about by a lawsuit.
Let's be excited about some of the positive that the city council is doing in this town, right?
The city has no counter.
Right, but they're still a part of it.
That's okay. We need to respect everybody's view, as we said earlier. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
All right, guys, I'll wrap it up there, but I really appreciate your efforts. I really appreciate your leadership here. I think you guys are going to make big strides for the whole community, whether I agree with their opinions or not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think you wanted to speak again, yes? Okay? Yeah. And yes, sir, we'll get you second. We have one other person before you. Yeah, you're next.
All the projects I advocated cost money. Okay, there are many options to raising that kind of money. Private-public partnerships. I mentioned putting letters of interest to, like, the Chinese consulate. They do a lot of construction. You ever heard the road belt issue that's going around the world? Literally. I mean, the Chinese are very creative. Advertising, it's kind of pricey. Advertising in The Economist. The Pakistani Railways do. I mean, and they get people to invest in the Pakistani Railways. So, I mean, there's a lot of creative financing out there. And I get stuff every day in my mail of companies wanting to loan me half a billion dollars for projects. So, I mean, it is counterproductive to think that we can't do this. Because others are being creative financially. We need to do that to save our environment here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've got two, do you want to speak again?
Yeah.
Okay, we got two people in front of you. Okay?
I'm just doing this, coming up again to address a couple items that people brought up. First off, everybody talks about pedestrian safeway. I travel extensively throughout the world, and everywhere you go, you see entire infrastructure cities almost underneath towns and intersections with underpasses where you can go down there. There's shops, there's everything. It's safe. You're walking underneath the road. There's pedestrian overpasses. You walk over the road. You can do that at State Line. Why not? Okay, now the other thing is when you talk about tunnels, everybody laughs when they talk about tunnels under Luther Pass and underneath Echo Summit. I just got back from Japan, and there are tunnels there that are like 9 miles long. I've been like under the Mont Blanc in France, and there's tunnels that are 12, 13 miles long. They're sustainable. People pay a toll. They don't care because it's straight through. It's easier than going back and forth and having traffic and everything else. So that's another issue that people laugh at. It's done all over the world, but here, okay? And then the other thing is, well, we don't need to worry about parking. We've got all the parking we need in South Tahoe and Lake Tahoe. You go to your house, if we had a bus system with satellite buses. I mean, you think about it, we got the perfect route. Pioneer Trail, Myers, North Upper Truckee, and Highway 50 back. You run buses at a regular route through there, both ways, and you have feeder buses for the, like, Sierra Track and Al Tahoe and that area. Now you have feeder buses going to it. Why don't we have this? We got a bus system that goes from the Y, from a transit system that's closed because everybody's cold and smoked in it, to a useless transit system at Heavenly because you can't get from Cal Lodge to Nevada Lodge. You go to Breckenridge, in Japan, you go to France, you go anywhere. They got free bus systems. You get on it, you can go anywhere. You have no reason to leave, to get in your car once you're there. I lived up at one time off of Black Bart. It was a 2-mile walk to get to a bus station. Who in their right mind is going to walk 2 miles to go to the bus, get on the bus, go to the grocery store, and come back with all the groceries? Who they're going to drive their car? You build a road, LA's proof, Bay Area's proof. The more roads you build, the more cars you're going to have, and the more traffic you're going to end up with.
Okay, thank you. The gentleman, yes, sir.
Hi, how are we doing? Okay. My name is Tim Fajan, and I've lived up here for 47 years and in the area for 52. Okay. I've taught snow skiing the whole time. I've skied the whole time. And I've worked at Sahara all the way from 72 to 96 for 24 years on that property, and as a valet bellman. Okay, so then I went to Harrah's for 17 years, did the same, the same thing. I went to, and I worked part-time jobs at the Marriott and Lake Tahoe Resort and down at Edgewood too. Okay, so I've been in the whole thing, and I've been in the car part. And for somebody to sit there and say that this is busy here, they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, we used to park 600 cars a night at the Sahara, fill a parking lot of valet for 600 to 700 cars, and it was busy. There was only the times when Elvis was there, and all these other people were there. You people have not seen business. Okay, I've seen a lot of people die from crossing the street. I saw the head of human resources of the Horizon die walking across the street. Okay? Something needs to be done about the safety of that area, and this is an answer. Okay? It's not going to please every single person. I can tell you that. But for you people to sit there and say we have a traffic problem, you have not seen a traffic problem. Okay? The reason you got a traffic problem and gridlock going in here and out of town is because you got these people going through neighborhoods, and you're actually got a gridlock coming back onto the road, and the cars got to stop. If they went completely straight through like they used to, they would continually move, and you wouldn't have 10 hours to Sacramento. Okay? They didn't then, and we had so many cars already here. Harrah's they had to have cops in the street to direct cars into the Sahara property. Okay, so there's not a lot of traffic here. You got 6 stoplights in the area though that go from Park Avenue to the other end there. You got 6 stoplights. When the people have to stop at those stoplights, no matter how many cars are in there, you're gonna wait. Okay, that's part of the way that it's set up now. I was here when they had the 4th of July breakthrough.
About 30 seconds.
Welcome to Tahoe, or welcome to summer. The Harris put on. There was 30,000 people down there in the middle, and they had a professional traffic person make traffic go one way on one side and one way on the other side, and it took people 4 to 5 hours to get to work. Okay, you people that you need to help, that is not helping the community by doing it that way. You got to get the traffic to go around. And I live on Shepherd's Drive right there, and they come through my neighborhood because that's jammed up at the highway instead of a straight line going around to get them around there to go through. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Another trip down memory lane, I remember when Lawrence Wilk used to come here for 2 weeks every year. There were more buses in this town than there were cars. So, you know, let's talk about the diesel smoke then. But back in 1982, when I was working on redevelopment and when I was working on the Loop Road, right, we put in part of that project, pedestrian overpasses. And we eliminated all the lights, basically from Ski Run Boulevard to past the old Sahara Tahoe and the old Hyatt Lake Tahoe. So that's accomplishable. And when you have people that are crossing the streets, that are using pedestrian overpasses, right, traffic moves. The more impediments you put to traffic, right, the worse the traffic gets. Okay, so before you start spending $1 gazillion on a project that might or might not work, right, think about some practical things that can be done at a reasonable cost, right, to get traffic to move. We thought about that in 1982, but nobody put it into play. Think about it again.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else who would like an opportunity to address City Council? Yes, please. Was there somebody else? Did I see another hand somewhere? Well, you're next anyway, so come on. Yes, you're next, okay? And you'll be third.
Hi, my name is Marjorie. I've heard a lot of great people talk about different things, and this, from what I've learned so far, this project as it stands, of course, there's a lot of reasons we need to improve safety, improve traffic. I know that that area is definitely challenged, but as the person who spoke before me, oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm a little too tall for this. Anyway, I can lean. It's fine.
Okay. I didn't want to hold it. Okay.
Anyway, there are other options, right? And I just want to make sure that we're all exploring all of the options. I am concerned about how the current route goes through so many houses, right? I mean, it's no small thing to take somebody's house. If maybe a pedestrian overpass would accomplish a similar thing, right? So I just want to make sure that there's this one plan, and I feel like there's a lot of other options. I'm also really concerned with the displacement of people. If they're moved suddenly into one area, that often creates other problems. I've seen that in other areas. And I just, clearly, there's a lot that needs to happen, and there's some good aspects to this plan, but it just doesn't sit right with me at the moment as it stands now. And so I'd just like to make sure that the City Council and the rest of the people involved explore the other options, because there are a lot of other options for solving for whatever problems this supposedly solves for.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
But
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to thank you guys for having this forum. So
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Fry. I have been a resident of the South Shore of Lake Tahoe since 1976. I've been a homeowner since 1980. Like many of you, I've had a number of different jobs here. I've taught skiing. I was a ski school director. I coached ski racing. I was a race director. There was a drought. I got master's degree out of the box and took the teacher test, and I taught school at South Tahoe High School. Snow came back. I went back out to Kirkwood, became director of skier services. Eventually, they wanted to sell, and guys like me became expendable. And Carol Chaplin at LTVA rescued me from a burning ship, and I'm thankful for my job, and I work in tourism. But even when I was a teacher, I recognized that my job was tied to tourism. And the reason that I recognized that was so many of the kids that were in my class not only had jobs tied to tourism, but their parents had jobs tied to tourism, whether they knew it or not, because there are a lot of indirect jobs here that are tied to our tourism. Another piece that I can tell you is the first time I came to the South Shore was 1966 to ski. I had heard about Gun Barrel, and I was a pretty cocky guy, so I thought I would kick Gun Barrel's butt. And what I found out was that Gun Barrel kicked my butt. But I still had a lot of fun. This is just something that I've noticed. The motel that I stayed in at State Line is still there. And it wasn't very nice then. Because I was a kid and I didn't have a bunch of money. And after that, I continue to come back on an annual basis. And one of the things that I notice, because I drive through that area and I drive through some of those back streets that Tim was talking about where he lives to get to work over off of Kingsbury on a daily basis. And a lot of the folks that do our hard work in our hotels and in our casinos live in those neighborhoods, and they're really not very nice buildings. And a lot of the motels that are down there have kind of turned into flop houses. So one of the things that I think I haven't heard yet talked about is for this project to go forward, that affordable housing has to be in place for those people. I think we can do
About
a lot
30
better.
seconds.
We can do a lot better by those people, and we can make traffic run through there a lot smoother. And as a guy attached to a street like Tim, where our visitors think that my cross street is a freeway, and that they don't need all-wheel drive or chains, they can just have accidents and get stuck in there all they want. I think if we buffed out the State Line area of our town and made it really attractive and made the traffic flow in there, we would make people want to be in that area more than maybe wanted to be in our neighborhoods. It's just another thought. So I want to thank all of you for coming here this evening. It's great to see the turnout, and one of the things that I think is important is I'm seeing some younger faces in here, and you guys, you younger folks are the folks that you're the folks that are going to make this thing move forward, make our community happen. Because I'm an old guy, but when I moved here, I was a young guy, and I still love it here. So let's do what's right for our community. Let's figure out how to get some better housing for our folks that are doing the hard work down there. Let's make our traffic flow through town a little nicer, and let's trick out the core area of our town so maybe we can get some of the folks out of our neighborhoods and down where they belong. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Sir, would you like to still speak? Please, you're next. You are next. You are up. Would you like to speak again? Anybody else who would like to speak again? We want to save a few minutes here. I think the city council and city manager would like to share a few comments with you. So we have one in the back. You'll go next, and then this gentleman, and then, okay? Very good.
I appreciate this opportunity to be able to speak before you and for all the residents to have a word in what's going on. I did think that this was voted down by the residents at one time. Maybe I'm mistaken. But I think we voted on that. Am I wrong?
We did.
We voted down.
Yes.
So I don't know what this is all about. But my main reason is, well, one of the things that somebody told me about was all these people in the hole in the ground down here at the end of by the state line, they got cheated out of all their properties. And I understand they have not getting paid yet. I don't know what's going to happen here with this new project, but I'd be concerned about that and for the people. My main, one of my main reasons is to be here is to talk about the potholes we've got in this town. And this is creating, I don't know what it's creating now, but if you can't take care of the potholes, how can you take care of this? That's just my input, and I appreciate everybody here, and appreciate, again, the opportunity to speak before you.
Thank you. Thank you. The gentleman in the back, yes.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Spencer Griscom. I'm a small business owner here in town near the project area. Coming to this meeting, I've heard little bits and pieces through different little articles in the paper or hearsay on this Loop Road project. What I've learned tonight is that, one, everybody here, whether you're for it or not, realizes that this town has a lot of issues and a lot of things we want to fix. To fix issues, we need a project, a strong project that addresses these issues and comes up with a good solution. So by having this forum in front of everybody where everybody can come together and put their 2 pieces and their 2 cents into the planning process, everybody can come and put their minds together and work together to make good solutions, can bring us together for a good community, bring us together and try to help fix our biggest issue we have here about the divided nature of us. You know, strong, yes, let's go Loop Road. No, let's not go Loop Road. Yes on Measure T, no on Measure T. Let's fix our roads, let's do this. You know, let's come together and learn to talk through these issues in a respectful manner. And let's all put our ideas and our heads together to figure out a good solution. Because there's traction for a big project to improve part of this town. So let's come together and work together and get behind this and come together as a group and push the traction forward to make a good, solid plan that everybody's going to get buy-in on. Maybe not 100%, but let's get up to 70, 80% and make something really good. So thanks, Council, for stepping up and doing your part here, and good turnout for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm short. Just a parting word. There are a lot of approaches to redevelopment. And my view is this: does it make sense to redevelop an area by putting a highway through it? Are there better options? I think there are. I think you know there are. Please consider them. I will add, a lot of things have gone through this town that were planned by some very smart people and went south. All you have to do is go look at the Tahoe Keys. It's probably one of the worst environmental things to happen to this town, and it was planned by some very smart people. Check the planning, look at your options, go back to the table, find the middle ground. Thank you.
Thank you.
A number of points have been made this evening that I think are worth a little bit of reconsideration. If this project were about road safety, perhaps we'd be talking about the cyclists who were killed on 50 between Motel 6 and Grocery Outlet, but we're not. If it were about car traffic and climate change, we'd be talking more about mass transit, both local and from the Bay, and why Heavenly isn't running shuttles from the casinos to the ski lifts anymore, but we're not. if it were about traffic flow, might we be talking about bookending our town with 2 traffic circles so that when the next campfire comes through, we're going to be blockaded at both ends, but we're not. I'd like to know from the TTD, the TRPA, and all the other acronym agencies, what planning exactly, what analysis has been done on fire evacuation and the impact of the traffic circles at both ends of our town. Paradise vanished in 4 hours. It takes longer than that to get out on a holiday weekend, currently. So Caltrans may live in a universe where California doesn't burn, but that's not the real world. So I'd like to know what consideration has been done there. The City Council effectively has a veto on this project. And until these questions are answered, until we know why exactly does this road need to go through and destroy a mostly working income Hispanic neighborhood instead of through the Raley's parking lot, right? It needs to be vetoed until there's a good reason for that not to happen. And more money for Vail, more money for the hotels, and more money for the casinos is not a good reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Would you like to speak? Anyone else? I think we have maybe time for one more person after. Okay. This will be our last speaker then. And I encourage all of you, make sure you turn in your comment cards if you've used them. There are more on the table. If you have other thoughts, please share those.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Ethel Aubrey, and I've been here since '76, off and on. And there's been a lot of changes. We keep hearing about the core of South Lake Tahoe.
Where is it?
There's 6 miles of core of South Lake Tahoe. There's also a road already present between the village and Raley's. Why can't that be made into 6 or 7 lanes with traffic going both ways? You don't have to displace people. You don't have to spend a lot of money to rebuild houses. And keep in mind, the hole in the wall. How many years did it sit there with no productivity for this city? But there's options and things, and I really think that a lot of progress has been made with the Lakeview Commons and the other project, the Harrison project. But if the money isn't there, don't start something you can't finish. If you make the Park Avenue a major Highway 50, and you put overpasses or underpasses or tunnels, you're going to have traffic, people and pedestrians safer. It'd be a lot less expensive. But I get really disgusted every time I go up and down Highway 50 to the Y. The roads are awful. Several years ago, there was somebody here from, I believe it was Sweden. They loved our city. They thought it was great. But her complaint was the roads. And this has been several years ago. So how far have we really come to help our locals get to and from work? Not only that, has anyone ever counted how many stoplights, how many traffic lights there are between State Line and the Y? You talk about congestion. There's 19 in a 6-mile area. Think about it. You go from one light to another. If you're trying to get onto Highway 50 from another road, you can't get on because this car's backed up into the intersection. But that's all I've got to say. No, I have one more thing. And I think it's a real shame that Mr. Collins isn't here tonight. He's one of your board members. He's the one that filed a lawsuit. And we should not be governed by one individual that doesn't like what's happening because he wants the loop road because he owns property there that would be taken or paid for. Our city does need money, it does need help, and I think there's a lot of avenues to be looked into. And you do have quite a job to have it done right. But maybe it's just a temporary fix to make Park Avenue the Highway 50, but it should be considered. It would not only save money, it would be something that would keep traffic moving. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you all. From my perspective, I appreciate the fact that you all have been very respectful of each other and the different points of views given tonight. I appreciate that you've really focused on what are some of the key questions you want answered and some of the concerns you have, as well as some of the reasons you think it's a good idea. So I hope the City Council and City have found this very helpful, but thank you all for contributing to that. And I think each of you are going to make just share some reflections. And so I don't know, Mayor, how you want to do this, but I'll turn it over to you to how you want to orchestrate your comments.
Thank you. Again, my name is Devin Middlebrook, one of your newly... Yeah, good idea. My name is Devin Middlebrook, one of your newly elected council members. The mic, I felt like I was louder than the mic, but we got it going. I just want to start by saying thank you all so much for taking your time, sitting here with us today through this meeting, listening to every comment, and most of all, being respectful for everyone and all of the different point of views. I just want to say the new council, especially the 3 new members here today, we are hopefully the first new council in a long line of doing things differently at Lake Tahoe. We no longer have a... Thank you. We no longer have a city council of the past that has put a lot of bad projects, bad ideas, and holes in our community that have yet to be filled. This is today, with this community here, this is the first step in us moving forward. There was also, I wrote down every single comment that every single person made tonight, and I'm going to be going back through all of those and reading them and understanding all of the concerns and making sure that our council is making those clear to TRPA and to TTD and making it clear that we won't support a project that doesn't address our needs and meet our concerns. I also want to address the fact that there was a lot of talk about roads, housing, ski run, the why. This project is just one of many projects in our community. Just because we're here talking about this tonight doesn't mean that at next city council meeting, we're not going to be talking about roads, that we're not going to be talking about fires, that we're not looking into evacuation plans. We can do all of those as well as this project. We have a lot of dedicated staff and dedicated council members that are looking at a variety of issues and a variety of solutions to this. This is one potential piece of a larger puzzle, and we're looking at that. So I really encourage everyone here to stay involved, as our council will, and our staff and new city manager Frank, with this project as it moves forward. And hopefully by the end of this process, we can all come to agreement around something that we all want to see for the community.
Well, I'd like to apologize for my family. Always trying to upstage everybody. But that's okay because I love them. Thank you all for being here. I really pushed for this with Mayor Lane. We felt that the previous council had not listened to you, and I made a pledge to you during the election and the previous 2 years that listening to the community was something that needed to be done, and this is just a first step. It's just the first project. I agree with Councilmember Middlebrook. This is just a first step, and I encourage each of you to attend our meetings, to keep us on track, keep us in line. As Mr. Brown has stated, we work for you. I work for you. My phone number is out there everywhere. Please know, call me. My phone starts ringing at 6:30 in the morning, doesn't stop till 8 o'clock at night, and I welcome it. I want to know what you want. I want to know what you need, and the council is really I'm so encouraged about what we are trying to do as a group. And again, we're listening and we're making an effort. And I hope you understand that. And if you ever don't, let me know. Thank you.
Just very briefly. So my name is Frank Rush, and some of you I've met already. Many of you I have not. Just so you know, I got here about 3 months ago, and I feel incredibly blessed to be a part of this community. This has been an interesting project to work on. I'm sure it's going to be very interesting going forward. One thing I can guarantee everybody in this room is that none of us in here can change the past. And so we are clearly focused on the future and clearly focused on moving forward in a constructive way, taking your concerns, taking your ideas, doing the best job that we can to address them. And I promise you that we probably won't address every concern, but I promise you we'll absolutely try our hardest to do that. So I appreciate everybody coming out tonight and sharing the concerns and the ideas. I learned a great deal. It will help me in my role and help the council go forward as we work on this project. So thank you.
Yeah, you know, I would echo pretty much everything that was said by Devin and Tammy and Frank. We really want to get buy-in on all sorts of projects, not just the Loop Road. But I think it was clear to me, looking in the past, that this had been kind of just pushed forward with very little dialogue or community involvement, and that's the point of this tonight. I think that there can be great advantages to this project going forward. I also think there needs to be a lot more input, and that's really the point of bringing us here. We still have a lot of questions. There's a lot of unanswered questions. There's a lot of financial questions, so many things before we really see the first, shovel of dirt turn on this project. But I think for us as a new council, our biggest goal is to really get our community involved, and really because that's where we get to be what's best, is by multiple minds and by the community getting involved and being behind it. So that's really our goal, and I'm glad that everybody is here tonight, and we'll have many more of these sessions to bring this farther forward. So thank you.
Well, I can't say much more than what's already been said, but I do want to thank Councilmember Wallace, because this was kind of an idea that you and I had, and we brought it to the city and you supported it. And we're here tonight for just the first of many conversations. So we want to thank all of you for enlightening us. I also took copious notes. And we're going to review all of that. We're going to make sure we come up with the answers that we don't already have and that we share the answers that we think we know. And my mind is open to a myriad of options. So I am not locked in. I don't believe any of my council members are. And I do want to say that having working right now with the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, they're adamant that they want the city's support, and not just on where they are, but where we can go with this. So I think the agencies are also open. I can't speak to TTD because I'm not working with them, but my impression is that they want to hear what we have to say. They're open to making the changes if they're the right ones to make, and they clearly want the city as a partner. And we do understand on a very clear level that we do have the final say. And I can't, every agency I've spoken to, Caltrans, TTD, TRPA, they all say, if the city doesn't buy in, it's not gonna work. So we're gonna figure this out with you, or we're not. So this is just the first of many conversations. Thank you all for coming tonight. Drive safely home. Watch out for the potholes. We're working on that too. Thank you.